The Appalachians are older than men, older than memory, older than the very notion of settlement. Every ridge folds into the next like the vertebrae of some ancient creature buried beneath the clouds, each hollow a shadowy rib cage, every peak lost to fog that never fully lifts. Geologists speak of millions of years, of strata pressed into stone and soil, but the mountains measure time differently. Here, the forest has its own calendar. The hills breathe. The wind whispers secrets only the patient can hear. To walk here is to feel the weight of history pressing down through every leaf, every broken branch, every coil of mist hanging in the holler. The ground is soft with rot and root, mud and moss, where fallen logs sink slowly, giving themselves back to the earth. Streams run black with silt and coal dust, winding like veins through valleys too steep for roads. And when the wind moves through the trees, it carries a groan not made by any living thing. Men think they know the woods. They think that clearing a ridge, slashing a trail, or stringing electric fences can carve a home here. They do not know. They cannot know. The forest does not yield. It waits. It grows back. It swallows mistakes whole. Houses collapse into kudzu, roads vanish under landslides, and even graves tilt. Headstones sinking into the dark as though the earth itself wants the dead returned. Through this forest moves something older than men, something patient and silent. The creature walks the ridges with muscles that remember the weight of trees, the pull of gravity over rock, the rhythm of life undisturbed by human folly. Its fur is dark, matted with rain and pine sap. Its hands are thick and calloused. Its eyes burn faintly when caught in a stray sunbeam or a flash of a distant flashlight. Names matter little here. Bigfoot, forest devil, stone man. To those who glimpse it, it is the same. Flesh, blood, bone, and instinct. It is not a ghost, and it is not myth. There is proof if one looks closely. Hair caught on barbed wire, clawed tree trunks scarred by immense strength, footprints pressed deep in mud and clay. Occasionally a man disappears, a story told in hushed tones. Miners who never returned from abandoned shafts, hunters who vanished along trails, hikers who never returned from the ridge after nightfall. The forest keeps no ledger. It does not mark absence. It only endures. Its life is simple, governed by the necessities of survival. It moves mostly at night, traveling the hidden corridors of the hollers. It avoids humans where it can, but is never careless. It knows the sound of engines, the smell of smoke, the echo of gunfire. It remembers every intrusion. Every encounter leaves a mark in muscle memory and mind. When the pressure becomes too great, when the intruder strays too far into its domain, it acts, swiftly, decisively, and without remorse. The watchers of the past knew it by instinct. Native tribes spoke of a giant in the forest, the guardian of the mountains, a protector of game and river. Settlers, in their turn, told of hairy men and spirits in the night, warning children not to wander too far from the cabin. Miners left offerings at the mouth of shafts, hoping to placate what might lurk in the dark hollows. These tales, twisted by generations, still carry threads of truth. The creature walks, unseen, and the forest bends around its presence. In the hollows where fog hangs thick, where streams curl around boulders and roots, it moves like water over stone, silent, deliberate, unbroken. It hunts deer and bear, sometimes fish from the black rivers, taking only what it needs. Its senses are attuned to the faintest shift in air, the subtlest vibration of branch or leaf. It can detect men long before they see it. dogs long before they bark, lights long before they flare. And still, it waits, calculating, patient. Nightfall brings the forest alive. Crickets scream in harmony, frogs croak from mossy banks, owls sweep silently over ridges, and the wind threads between the trees. Every sound has weight, every movement is noted. It is not malicious, it is methodical, it is survival. But survival in these mountains grows harder every year. Roads cut deeper, houses creep up hillsides, lights flare where there should be only shadow. Hunters come with rifles, dogs, and whiskey, leaving scent and blood behind. Meth cookers light fires in hollowed-out trailers, smoke curling into the ridges. Growers carve green rows under camouflage netting, poisoning the forest with chemical runoff. Hikers wander with solar lamps and maps, laughing at old stories, stepping into corridors older than their understanding. Each intrusion narrows the space it can walk. Each human footprint pushes the creature closer to violence. And when violence comes, it is swift. It does not hesitate. Its rage is not born of malice, but of necessity. Territory, survival, the instinct to remain unseen. There are moments when the forest is quieter than usual. The wind dies in the hollows. The crickets stop. The river slows. And then something moves in the shadows. A long, rolling step. A branch snapping softly under immense weight. Eyes glint. A hand brushes bark. A furred shoulder shifts, and the forest exhales, hiding the watcher once more. The mountains have always held secrets. They will hold them still. But patience has limits. Every year, every human intrusion, every trespass narrows the margin. And the watcher remembers, always. The stories begin before anyone can remember. Old-timers, when they're drunk and honest enough, speak of miners who vanished into shafts that led nowhere, of hunters who disappeared along logging trails, their rifles left leaning against trees. Children whisper of tall men watching from the shadows, and mothers warn them not to wander at night, not even to the creek, because the dark is older than their houses. Some say it moves like a man. Others swear it runs like wind, silent but swift. In truth, the creature is neither man nor wind, but a presence stitched from both. Its mind is neither cruel nor kind, only methodical. It watches, waits, and learns. It remembers every footstep, every scent, every errant light, folding these intrusions into its calculation of the forest. Every human encounter is a lesson in patience and survival. When dusk thickens into night, the forest transforms. Shadows lengthen, the river hums low, and the wind carries whispers of movement. Here, in the hollows and ridgelines, the watcher prowls unseen. Its gait is careful, deliberate, and fluid, pressing close to the ground to avoid leaving telltale prints. Sometimes it pauses, sniffing the wind, listening to the faintest echo of human activity far off in a hollow or down a ridge. Its awareness extends far beyond the senses of man or dog. The land itself conspires with it. Fallen logs serve as cover. Fog swirls around its broad shoulders. Thick underbrush tangles around the feet of intruders, slowing them, breaking their scent trails, hiding the watcher's presence. The mountains are alive, and they bend for the one who belongs here. There are times when the creature is forced to act, even before violence begins. A lone hiker with a flashlight, mapping every turn, might never see what passes behind him. A dog may yelp once and go silent. A rusted chain-link fence might be shredded in the night. These small incidents are warnings, preemptive, designed to maintain distance and survival. But not all warnings are heeded. The mountains are increasingly crowded, and trespassers are bold. Hunters stumble over hidden routes, whiskey-heavy and careless. Chainsaws tear through the hollows as growers carve green rows into the slopes. The smell of chemical smoke curls through the ridges from hidden meth labs, marking territory the creature has long called its own. Even the innocent wanderers, nylon tents and solar lamps in hand, leave trails that cannot escape notice. The creature observes, calculates, and remembers. Every human footprint, every scent, every bright light is catalogued. The forest grows tighter, the margins narrower. Yet still, it waits, patient, silent, a shadow among shadows. Old stories insist that it is not merely a creature of flesh and bone, but a sentinel, a ghost, a thing older than time itself. Miners who vanished beneath the shafts were said to have glimpsed a figure taller than any man, watching silently, waiting. Hunters who stumbled on its tracks described them as impossibly long and deep, the mud pressed down as if some immense weight had passed by. These accounts are scattered across decades, whispered, half forgotten, yet never entirely lost. There are nights when the forest feels like it breathes with the watcher. Leaves stir without wind, branches snap when no one walks there. The river hums a low, unnatural note. Even the animals behave differently. Deer halt mid-step, dogs refuse to follow trails, birds vanish from the trees. The forest is alive with its presence. It hunts as necessity dictates. Deer, bear, the occasional wild hog. Food taken swiftly, efficiently, leaving only traces of the encounter. Sometimes it fishes in the black rivers, moving silently along the banks, eyes bright in the moonlight. Every action is deliberate, every step calculated to preserve life while avoiding unnecessary exposure. At times it tests the intruders, stepping close enough to be sensed but never seen. A distant scream, a broken branch, the silence of a dog. These are the margins, the signals that the creature is watching. It teaches restraint, patience, respect. Yet the encroachment continues. Roads cut deeper into the ridges. Houses climb up slopes too thin to support them, and floodlights flare where the dark should be. Chainsaws roar, guns fire, smoke curls. Each intrusion shrinks the margins of the forest, forcing the watcher closer to confrontation. The space it once moved through freely grows tighter, the nights longer, the pressure more suffocating. The watchers of old knew this. Native tribes spoke of a guardian of the mountains, protector of game and river. Settlers carried tales of hairy men, spirits, warning children not to wander after dark. Miners left offerings at shaft mouths, hoping to appease the unseen. Even now, whispers persist in the hollers. The watcher sees all, remembers all, moves when least expected. And so it continues, patient, silent, observing. It walks the ridges, flows through the hollows, moves like wind over stone, hunting, hiding, surviving. It remembers the crack of rifles, the smell of smoke, the echo of hounds. Its patience is vast, but not infinite. Every intrusion narrows its margin. Every trespass pushes it closer to action. In the fog-choked hollows, where even the moonlight dares not reach, it waits. Muscles tense, senses alert, eyes burning faintly as they catch stray light. The mountains breathe around it, fog swirling like smoke, leaves trembling with the weight of history. It moves, unseen, a shadow among shadows, a predator older than the forests themselves. And the watchers of man, hunters, miners, wanderers, growers, cooks, may not yet know it. But they are not merely intruders. They are part of the story now. They are the pressure, the disruption, the spark that will one day break patience into action. Because even the oldest, most patient creature has its limits. The forest grows louder as the years pass. Engines hum along roads carved too deep into the ridges. Chainsaws roar in hollowed slopes, and the lights of cabins flare against the darkness like eyes that do not blink. The margins where the watcher moves freely narrow each season, forcing longer detours, slower steps, and more careful observation. Hunters are the first intrusion. They come in droves during the season, rifles slung, dogs barking, whiskey heating their bellies. They follow the deer trails, the bear tracks, the hidden hollows, and they do not notice the larger footprints pressed deeply in the mud beside their own. Dogs yelp and go silent. Rifles fire at shadows, and the creature watches. One hunter, a man in his 50s, straggles along a ridge with a young boy in tow. He's been boasting of kills from years past, showing off his knowledge of the woods as though familiarity could grant him immunity. But familiarity is no defense. They cross a creek where the current hums over coal-colored rocks, and the man stops, noting the tracks. He sees a foot longer than his own, toes splayed unnaturally, pressed deep into the mud. He smiles, assuming an elk wandered here. The watcher crouches behind a fallen pine, its eyes glowing faintly in the last rays of sunset, watching, a snap of a twig from behind them. The boy freezes. The man turns, thinking it a deer. There is nothing. Only the faintest imprint of larger feet, pressed where they will not find them unless they follow the creek downstream. Hunters are predictable. They move along ridges, call for their dogs, sometimes stumble into traps they cannot see. The watcher learns from them, observing patterns, measuring the human threat. A rifle fired too early, a dog that panics, a man lost in fog. Each misstep catalogued, remembered. Then come the growers, men with dirt under their fingernails, eyes red from long hours under camouflage netting, chainsaws and fertilizer their tools of the trade. They carve small clearings into the hillsides, the soil furrowed and green with young crops, and they guard it fiercely, unaware of the eyes that watch from above. One grower sets up a makeshift scarecrow at the edge of his plot. He does not notice the movement in the fog behind it, something taller than any man, watching. He sprays the crops with chemical fertilizer, the pungent smell rising through the hollow. Somewhere, deep in the trees, the watcher flinches at the smell, cataloging it for later, noting which valleys are poisoned, which ridges are unsafe. The watchers of old, tribes, miners, and settlers, never knew the smells of chemical runoff, the choking haze of smoke from illegal labs, the humming engines of ATVs. These are new intrusions, and they press against the forest harder than men ever could with axes alone. Meth labs are the next disturbance. Rusted trailers and plastic drums rise from hollows, their fires flaring and smoke curling into the ridges. The chemical stench drifts far, carrying warnings. Sometimes the watcher can smell the heat of human panic before seeing the men themselves. One such lab explodes, a fireball roaring across the hollow. The men stagger out, coughing, screaming, unaware of the watching eyes high in the ridges. By morning, the scorched earth bears no trace of the men save for a few blackened bones partially buried in the mud. The watcher does not rejoice. It notes, it remembers, it moves silently, retreating before the smoke clears completely. Hikers come after, oblivious, carrying solar lamps and maps, snapping photos of moss-covered roots and fog-choked ridges. They laugh at old tales, daring the dark to answer. stepping into corridors older than their understanding. Some leave tents set up under hollowed trees. A backpacker hears something moving in the shadows, a long rolling step, a branch snapping softly, but thinks it a deer. A dog refuses to follow a trail. The hikers move on, unaware that something watched them, measured them, marked them. The watchers and intruders converge in ways the forest has not known before. A hunter crosses a grower's ridge at night. A hiker stumbles near a meth lab hidden in the hollow. The watcher moves between them, careful to avoid exposure, but the forest is growing smaller. The margins are thinner. The spaces that once allowed it to disappear freely are shrinking, forcing longer detours, slower steps, greater caution. Even the weather becomes a tool. Fog thickens, heavy and wet, hiding the creature's movements. Rain softens the ground, covering footprints and scent trails. The wind carries faint sounds, masking its passing. Sometimes, in the dead of night, the watcher uses these advantages to observe intruders, moving close enough to make its presence known without fully revealing itself. These encounters rarely end in immediate violence, yet they plant unease. Hunters find their rifles missing, or their dogs dead at the edge of the hollow. Growers discover crops shredded, scarecrows toppled, but no one caught. Hikers return to cabins telling of strange sounds in the night, shadows that moved against the trees, or footprints too long to be human. The forest whispers, the mountains hold secrets, and the watcher watches still. The intruders, for all their noise, never fully see it, but their presence reshapes the forest's rhythm. Deer avoid trails, birds vanish from trees, rivers hum with an unnatural tone. Even the wind carries a different weight, moving leaves with intent. The watcher adapts, calculating which areas are safe, which are compromised, which are no longer passable. Old-timers speak of times when the mountains were quieter, when the creature could move freely through ridges and hollows. Those days are gone. The roads, the cabins, the noise, they are pressure, slowly compressing the forest, forcing encounters that once could have been avoided. The watcher, silent and patient, navigates this new terrain. It observes the hunters who stumble over roots, the grower who sprays chemicals unaware of the eyes above, the meth cook whose fires light up the ridges, the hiker whose flashlight sweeps the darkness. Every human is cataloged, every movement noted, and always, always, the margins narrow. Sometimes, humans approach too closely. The snap of a branch underfoot, a scent carried by the wind, a stray flashlight beam. It is enough for the watcher to pause, to test, to warn. A man may find his dog dead, a crop shredded, a trail blocked. These are warnings, preemptive, keeping the intruders at bay. But warnings are not always heeded. The forest grows tense. Fog thickens. Leaves rustle with unseen weight. Branches snap. Rocks fall into rivers. Animals go silent. And somewhere, high in the ridgeline or deep in the hollow, eyes gleam faintly in the dark. The watcher moves, flowing through the forest like water over stone. It is patient, calculating, and older than any human intrusion. And yet, encroachment continues. Roads deepen, houses rise, lights flare, chainsaws roar, guns fire, smoke curls. Each intrusion compresses the space it can move freely. Each trespass pushes it closer to action, closer to inevitability. Old stories insist it is a sentinel, a creature of flesh and blood. Yes, but also a ghost, older than the forest itself. Miners who vanished, hunters who stumbled on tracks too long for human feet, hikers who returned frightened. These accounts weave a tapestry of observation and caution. The watcher knows the story, reads the echoes of the past, and adapts to the pressures of the present. In the fog-choked hollows, where even the moonlight dares not reach, it waits. Muscles tense, senses alert, eyes burning faintly. The mountains breathe around it, fog swirling like smoke, leaves trembling with the weight of history. The watcher moves, unseen, a shadow among shadows, a predator older than the forests themselves. Every human in the forest is a variable now. Every intruder a test, a threat, a disruption. And though the watcher has endured centuries, patience has limits. The forest tightens, the intrusions press, and the day will come, soon perhaps, when observation alone will not suffice, and action will become necessary. The forest no longer merely watches, it acts. Hunters stumble through the fog-laden hollows, rifles heavy, dogs alert, unaware that they are no longer the hunters, but the hunted. The watcher has learned them, their habits, their patterns, the rhythm of their folly. It moves silently, muscles coiled, senses stretched to the limits of perception. Every step is calculated, every breath measured against the wind. A hunter's flashlight flickers through the trees. He stumbles over a root, cursing. His dog yelps once and goes silent. Somewhere, a shadow heavier than the night drifts behind him. The watcher's hand brushes a tree trunk, leaving a smear of dark hair, a warning unnoticed. The hunter bends to check the dog, sees nothing, and continues, unaware that the watcher has already pressed closer, a hulking silhouette between the fog and the moonlight. The strike is swift. The hunter never hears it coming. A hand closes over his shoulder, a weight that crushes, drags him into the shadows. There is a snap of bone, a muffled scream, and then silence. The dog, whimpering, runs blindly into the trees, never to return. The forest exhales, fog curling over disturbed leaves, masking the evidence of the watcher's efficiency. Meanwhile, on a ridge half a mile away, a grower tends his chemical-laden crops. He sprays fertilizer over rows of green, the pungent fumes marking the earth. The watcher circles above, unseen, assessing, a rustle, a shadow. The grower looks up, too late. There is a scream, high-pitched and strangled, then silence. By morning, only overturned soil and broken equipment remain. No trace of the man. No sound of struggle except for the whisper of leaves in the wind. The forest is no longer quiet. Even animals flee. Deer stampede from hollows. Birds vanish from branches. Streams churn unnaturally, disturbed by movement beneath the roots. The watcher moves with it all, a pulse in the living organism of the forest. Hikers wander into this world unprepared. A group of 3 follows a trail along the ridge, cameras in hand, laughing at stories of big men in the woods. Night falls. Fog thickens. The trail curves unnaturally, as though the forest itself guides them. The watcher observes from above, eyes glinting faintly in moonlight. A distant scream cuts the laughter short. One of the hikers trips over a root and is pulled backward by an unseen force. Panic spreads. Their lights swing wildly. A hand grips the shoulder of another. Screams erupt, cutting through the fog. The last hiker runs, tripping and falling into a creek, and sees nothing. Only hears the muffled snaps of pursuit in the dark. The forest responds to every disturbance. Branches fall to block paths. Roots trip the unwary. The river swells slightly in hollowed curves as if warning or punishing. The watcher does not rejoice. It observes, hunts, and survives. But the intruders are no longer simply trespassing. They are catalyzing events, forcing violence that was once avoidable. Inside a hollow near an abandoned coal shaft, a meth lab blazes. Flames lick the trees, smoke rolling into ridges, carrying chemical stench into the fog. The watcher approaches cautiously, drawn not by curiosity, but necessity. The men inside are frantic, shouting, throwing chemicals. One stumbles outside and vanishes into the night, screaming. Another fires a shotgun blindly. The watcher dodges, strikes, and disappears before the fire consumes the lab entirely. By morning, the hollow is silent, scorched earth where chemicals burned into the soil. No human remains are left unclaimed. Some bodies are carried away into the shadows for the forest to swallow entirely. The margins are gone. Every intrusion has pushed the watcher closer to confrontation. Patience has been tested. Limits have been reached. Now, it moves with predatory purpose, orchestrating encounters like a hunter directing an entire valley. The creature's method is precise. It strikes where humans are weakest, exploiting ignorance and panic. Hunters are dragged into hollows, torn quickly and efficiently, their rifles useless. Dogs, alerted too late, vanish or are killed silently. Growers find their equipment destroyed, their bodies missing, leaving only overturned soil and shredded crops as testimony. Hikers stumble blindly into trees and streams, the forest conspiring to disorient them, their screams muffled under the dense fog and canopy. Meth cooks' flames and chemicals serve as chaotic signals, their panic hastening their downfall. Yet even fire is no match for the forest's cunning and the watcher's speed. At the center of this, the watcher moves like a shadow made solid. It uses the terrain, the ridges, the fog, the rivers to its advantage. It blends into mist, hangs from branches, drops into hollows, shifts its mass with almost supernatural timing. Its intelligence is not human, but adaptive, primal, honed over centuries of survival. It recognizes patterns, predicts behavior, exploits flaws. Every attack is clinical. Every human fall is evidence, not malice. The folklore of old now manifests. Whispers among the ridges become reality. The forest devil is no longer legend, no longer story told to frighten children. The watcher's presence is undeniable, a pulse of death and calculation moving through the hollows. Hunters who bragged of previous kills, confident in rifles and dogs, are removed swiftly. Growers boast of traps and fencing, but they fail. Hikers who mocked tales of hairy men vanish into shadow. The mountain remembers, and it delivers justice on its terms. Even as the violence unfolds, the narration of the forest remains. Streams hum. Fog coils through trees. Leaves shiver with the weight of centuries. The watcher moves in harmony with the land, a predator perfectly adapted to a world shrinking beneath human intrusion. Its violence is deliberate, clean, precise. Every encounter leaves echoes, footprints, broken branches, scorched soil, silent rivers, but never the entire truth of what has passed. By dawn, the forest is quiet again. Hunters are gone. Growers are gone. Hikers are gone. Meth lab fires smolder, leaving scorched earth. The watcher retreats into the dense ridges, muscles still, senses alert, blending into the fog. The forest exhales, yet it waits, always. The mountains are patient, and so is it. The intrusions of men will continue. Roads will deepen, houses will climb slopes too thin, and floodlights will flare where darkness should be absolute. Chainsaws roar, guns fire, smoke curls. Every human is cataloged, every movement noted. The watcher moves in response, maintaining survival, observing, calculating. And still, the legend grows. The stories pass down. Miners' warnings, settlers' tales, hunters' whispers now have the weight of proof. The watcher is real, ancient, unstoppable. The forest is alive, and it bends to protect its secret. In the dense hollows, high ridges, and fog-choked valleys, it moves unseen. Eyes glint, muscles coil, fur glistens with mist. It is predator, observer, guardian, and myth. And the forest waits with it. Patient, eternal, knowing that man may intrude, but it will always respond. Even when all seems quiet, the watcher remembers. Every intrusion, every trespass, every mistake. The forest is alive with history, and its oldest inhabitant stalks within. The hunter may be clever, the grower may be careful, the hiker may be oblivious, but none can outrun the rhythm of the mountains.